What's going on, guys? I am Michael Anthony, and thank you for checking out my article in this month's Shutter Magazine. Guys, this month we're talking all about seeing the light. And I want to focus on a couple of things primarily in this video that I think are important when it comes to becoming a well-rounded photographer. As you guys all know, lighting is the essence of everything that we do as photographers. Our goal is to see light, to study it, to capture it, and then to use it to be able to communicate our intended message to the viewers of our images, right? But one of the things I want you guys to focus on is when it comes to working with your clients on a day-to-day basis, right? Lighting is not something that you want to experiment with, right? You want to do that when you're working on practice shoots or when you're working on non-paid gigs. And the reason for that is because what I've been seeing more and more in our industry is a trend of people who are experimenting with off-camera flash in order to just use off-camera flash. And when it comes to lighting, guys, our goal is to create highlights and shadows that help to tell a story and set a mood of exactly what we're trying to communicate to our viewers. So for instance, if I'm telling the story of this bridal portrait, bride is getting ready, and maybe it's a very happy moment, and we want to capture, everybody in the room. We don't necessarily want that image to be like dark, dramatic, and flashy, right? We might want to use the natural light that's already there, or we might want to be able to bounce light into a corner of room to fill the room with light in order to communicate that story the way that the image is calling for, right? So, for instance, what I see oftentimes are, couple out on a rock somewhere with the open sky in the background. The background is stopped down 3 stops, and then we just have a good light on the subject's face. And when I see that a lot of times, I try to ask, what is the story that we're trying to tell? Well, if the couple is like smiling at the light off into the distance, that story may not make sense visually to the viewer, right? You have this dramatic scene where they're smiling off into the distance. What are they smiling at, right? That's what we have to ask ourselves. So in that instance, you might want to pick a pose or an expression that's a little bit more dramatic. It's going to be a little bit more I guess you would say editorial, as opposed to them smiling off into the distance, right? And mind you, guys, if I am working for my clients, I am gonna try to make them look happy in as many images as I possibly can. But sometimes we have to make sure if we're using dramatic lighting that the expression will match the scene, okay? The other thing that I want you guys to focus on in this coming wedding season is to utilize the light that you have available to you. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes us as photographers, especially if you're into off-camera flash or dramatic light, we might look for ways to use that off-camera flash when the light that's already there is going to be much quicker to get to, and it's going to help you to communicate with your subjects, help you to interact with your subjects a lot faster and more directly than it would be if you were sitting there working with your equipment trying to dial in your perfect shot. On a wedding day, and for the last 5 years, our style of shooting has relatively been the same, right? But on a wedding day, I'm gonna use natural light 95% of the day, right? And when I'm using off-camera flash, I try to get to my shot in less than 10 seconds. And the reason for that is because, like I've told you guys in the past, the perception of your client's images is directly tied to their experience. And if you're sitting there fiddling with your light, going back and forth from the light to the camera to the light, trying to get everything dialed in, getting your assistant to hold it in the perfect place, you're taking away from that client experience. And that is extremely important to pay attention to as you're working with your client. So if I'm running into issues with my gear, let's just say a flash isn't working or a battery is dead, I'd much rather use a natural light that's there, work with them for a few more minutes, and then replace that battery quickly and then go back into that off-camera flash shot. But I don't want to leave them hanging for too long without paying attention to them, because again, that experience is the #1 thing that we're trying to protect throughout a shoot or a commission with a client. So that's all I have for you guys this month. We're going to be talking about lighting over the next couple months, different aspects of it, and I can't wait to show you guys what we have in store for you. Thank you again, and we'll catch you guys next month in Shutter Magazine.